The Pistons are the basketball champions of the world.
Detroit, it's time. It's playoff time, Detroit. Let's go to work.
Shout out Detroit. I got to buff up, you know what I'm saying? Detroit, I'm all the way in. Detroit Pistons, I'm all the way in. Let's do it.
What's up, Pistons fans? Welcome back to yet another episode of the Buffs On podcast. Vali here. I'm joined by Gabe and Coni. No Amit today, unfortunately. But we're going to continue with our season previews by position. And today we've got the bigs. And just to capture who we're going to go over today, we're going to do Tobias Harris, who we didn't throw in the wings, just kind of make numbers fit. Tobias Harris, Isaiah Stewart, Jalen Duren, and newly acquired B-ball Paul Reed. We're going to get into these guys right away, and I think we're going to start with the most prized possession guys. We're going to go right into Jalen Duren. Coni, I'll hand it over to you. What are you expecting from Jalen Duren this year? Things you're looking out for, and give us that season preview.
What I'm looking for Jalen Duren, number one most important thing, top of the banner, top of the billboard, is defense. I mean, we've seen it from JD. We've seen his offensive capability. I expect it to continue to grow in little bits and little pieces, maybe passing game, turnovers, maybe a little bit more off the dribble, a little bit more with the touch game. But what really matters from turning Jalen Duren from like a good fun piece to a all-star caliber, like winning guy is the ability to play defense. Last year, he was kind of slow on rotations. He would often find himself like out of position and a half step back from where he really needed to be. For a guy that is so supremely athletic and can get off the ground, is long, and has those insane jumping skills on the offensive end, he averaged less than a block a game as a starting center, which is pretty low. So what I want to see from him this year, and what I'm expecting from him, is a jump on the defensive end. Is a greater understanding of how things are going to work, and really just make his presence felt and make a bigger impact on that side of the ball.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think defense is the main thing we're going at. But I just want to touch on one point you said, Connie. You said growth in offensive game. What does growth in his offensive game look like to you? Is that more post touches? Is that a flash of a jumper? Is that more of a passing sense from a post? Like, what are you looking for in terms of growth in an offense?
Maybe a little bit of flashing jumper, especially in the mid range if the shot is there. I think what I think of it for him is like some touch around the basket stuff, which he definitely improved on last year. He's got some creative finishing, but it's also the passing. Like we see the passing chops. The assists went up last year, but the turnovers did as well. So I'd like to see like a continued jump in his like ability to read the floor and make plays for himself and other guys, but as long as that keep it efficient, make the right plays. We talk so much about short roll and how effective it is. Jalen Duren could be an outstanding short roll playmaker, and especially with the shooters coming in this year, I think it should make it a lot easier for him both to be a roller and to be a distributor off that roll. So really, it's just kind of like improving all the things that we did see. We saw a little bit of like close range dinker dumper jump shooting. I want to keep seeing that. I want to see the finishing around the basket. I want to see some passing to shooters, some DHO work. Working the handoff up top with Cade or Ivy or whoever. With all those shooters. Setting a harder screen. A bunch of stuff, just around the margins, just improving in the skill set that he's already shown to have.
Yeah, I completely agree. And Jalen Duren did average 2.4 assists a game, along with his near 14 a game and 11.5 rebounds. Gabe, gonna shift it over to you now for Jalen Duren. More to add on to what Connie said?
Not more to add, no. Specifically, what I want to see is pick and roll. Can he evolve offensively in the pick and roll, like you guys said, as a passer, as a more dynamic finisher other than just an alley-oop, which is great. Like he doesn't necessarily need to add on to that in order to be a great offensive player. It's more defensively because he's going to be putting pick and rolls X amount of times a game. He will be the primary pick and roll defender. If he's not completely lost on 90% of those, it's going to look a lot better than last year. And it pretty much needs to be, because that is kind of what's stopping him from. We were talking the other day, is I think he could sniff an all-star team.
Whoa.
Yeah, you know, 20 points, 15 rebounds. Is that really that crazy for Jalen?
Yeah,
To average, I would say,
20
yeah.
Yeah, to
points,
average. Like,
rebounds.
kind of went through like the bigs of the East. There's not like there's Bam and Embiid, and behind that, like, you know, if we're sniffing around the play-in, if we're kind of in the mix, and he's just on an absolute tear, you know, there he is. And speaking of that offensive improvement, I do think he's gonna start taking some threes this year. He shot what, like 80% at the line last year, something like that.
Ooh,
He
I don't
has
know.
the
Yeah.
he has the
Oh,
touch.
I'll be mistaken. He shot 79%. All right.
Yeah, so I mean, he has the touch. It's just like, you know, he's practicing. I'm sure he's in the gym putting up shots. Just be able to hit. I'd rather see him take those than like a mid range because honestly, it's just it's just statistics. I don't think he's gonna be Stewart level, but I do think down the line he's gonna be almost like Bam is. You know, Bam's not a good shooter, but Bam can hit the occasional three if the defense is just completely ignoring him, which I'd like to see. Other than that, you know, I think he's gonna be awesome. He's still what is he still not allowed to drink here? He's still under 21, right?
Yeah, he turned
He
20
is,
in this last season.
he
So
is,
I mean,
yeah.
like I'd be expecting some contract talks to start after this year because he's going to be on our team. It's just a matter of is he going to be on the max like Andre Drummond, or are we going to be able to get him a little less than that? But that's a conversation for a later day. I'm just happy to watch him play again. I cannot wait to see him and Cade play.
Yeah, his utter dominance, like and like vertical threat was so refreshing to have. We haven't had that since I would say like a younger Andre Drummond, but we never obviously had like an elite point guard to match him with. And that's no disrespect towards Reginald Jackson there. But I think the most growth we'll get from Duren, for me, what I see is like what you said, Connie, the addition of spacers for him. Having that pick and roll with space, with him and Cade Cunningham running that. I touched on it a couple pods ago or two about that Gortat pick and roll. I just think there's going to be so many options that come from that pick and roll. Him catching early and having a drop off pass to a cutter, where if we do have less spacing, and that cutter could be Asar, Ron Holland, Bobby Clintman. Even we saw his cutting ability. But the overall spacing, I think, is going to just contribute to it massively. As we wrap things up from Duren, he averaged about 14 and 12 last season with 2.5 assists a game. Are you expecting a statistical jump in all of those categories? Um, if so, like tell me which, if you believe it, then yes, and then tell me also which category you think will see the most jump, and which one you'd like to see the most. I would like to see blocks. I know, Connie, you touched on it, under a block a game. I know that doesn't tell the whole story on defense, but Jalen Duren should be getting over a block a game. I want to see that above 1.5. I want to see the overall contests up. I don't know. Gabe and I were discussing the top scores we'd have. I don't see much of an increase in his point production. I don't see a 3-point shot really coming along. I just don't think that'll be the most necessary. I think the rebounds will skyrocket, and I think the minutes will skyrocket as I hope he becomes an
Skyrocket?
anchor. Yes, skyrocket. He averaged 11.8, and I'm thinking he's going to really take it on to be an anchor of this defense, especially if his good buddy Beef Stew is going to be dropping onto the bench lineup, which is very possible. Are you seeing statistical jumps from Jalen Duren for the both of you? What do you think, Connie?
I don't see rebounding skyrocket because it's already 11.6. Like that's already high. I expect blocks and assists to go up. Like all the same stuff that we talk about for like all the playmakers applies to Duren here too. He's a good passer, and having guys to pass to will make a difference. Yeah.
Gabe?
I think all his stats are going to increase. I'm going to say he's going to average like 18 and 14 this year.
Oh my god.
I think this guy is special, and I agree as well assists. I think he can average more assists, but I also think, yeah, just more. It's not necessarily growth that much. It's just having more shooters on the court around him, rather than Marvin Bagley and such.
Connie, where do you rank Jalen Duren in your center list in the East? Gabe has him at 3.
I have a 3.
No, that's not locked in because I wasn't. We were doing a little talking.
Top of my head, Embiid, Bam. I put Jared Allen ahead of him right now.
That's not crazy. Yeah,
Maybe Brooke Lopez.
yeah, because
I'd
I'm
say
not even
yeah,
taking Brook.
fifth is not bad for him. I'd say right now.
if
All right,
Jakob Poeltl.
not a chance.
No, I don't know. I think
Not a chance. For them.
last season, if we're talking about contributing to winning, I think Jakob Poeltl was better than Jalen Duren.
I
Sure.
think, but I think this year
I
he
think
could pole vault ahead of like Brooke Lopez, Hurdle, and like kind of be on Jared Allen level. Is kind of what I'm expecting him to be.
I
Yeah,
agree.
that really like all depends on the defense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And the defense, I think, is was very reliant on health. He missed a lot of games due to his ankle and ankles last season. And I remember him responding to somebody on Twitter, calling him out for not playing defense. And he said it's hard when you're hurt. So I think he was lacking a bit of like I don't know if that's an excuse, but the point is that I'm expecting a lot of defensive growth from him, and I think that's going to be the biggest key for him. Moving on to our next big in the season preview, then it was Duren's running mate at the 4, Isaiah Stewart, guys. What are we expecting from him this season? He was arguably our most consistent player last season, and I'd like to argue he was our second best player last season. And I think he really divides this fan base because I see a lot of people very anti Isaiah Stewart. Gabe, I'm gonna hand it over to you for the rundown on beef stew.
Yeah, those anti-beef stew people do not have a home here on this podcast. I think I'm in agreement with you. Our most consistent, our second best player behind K last year. And he averaged about 11 and 7, 1 point, no, about a block a game as well. And the important thing is he shot 38% from 3 on about 4 attempts a game. And we've talked a lot about what type of threes he was hitting. Was he really drawing people out of the 3-point line? The answer was really no. But if he continues to shoot like he did, I think he put up like 175 last year. And that's the other point I want to make. That we talk about consistency. The last 2 seasons, last year he played 46 games. The year before that was 50. To not be on the court, which surprised me honestly, because I felt like he played almost every game, but to not be on the court that much, you can't. I think that's the most important thing for him is to just stay healthy and be on the court. And if he's taking he took 175 threes over half a season last year. If he's putting up 350 threes, that's pretty good. And that's just really what I want to see next year. You said he was the starting 4. Thank God. I think our dual big days are over. Tobias Harris is most likely the starting 4, which we'll talk about later, which kind of puts Isaiah Stewart on the backup 5, which a lot of people have been asking for. And, I think that is what he's built best as. Even though I would love for him and Asar to start, I just don't think there's room. So to have one of the best backup bigs in the NBA, that is not an exaggeration. Beef Stewart is really good at everything he does pretty much. It's just great to have. And I think in this role, he's going to excel even more. He was at 30 minutes a game last year. That's probably going to drop down, I think, probably high 20s. Give Jalen a little more minutes and a little more freedom to be the exclusive big on the court with Asar there and just put those threes up and grab those rebounds because that's really what he's there for. And of course, being our best defender, which I think will continue.
Yeah,
Anything to add?
I think you're right on the money. I mean, I want to get Connie's perspective on if you see him starting or not. I don't see him starting. But what I do see him doing is closing just about every single game we play, whether that's at the 4, whether that's at the 5. He's just got to be on the court for, like you said, Gabe, for all those reasons. His overall consistency on both ends of the floor. He's one of the few guys that at least tries to bring it defensively and tries to, be a bit of an instigator. And those are the kind of guys you actually kind of need to win basketball games. I think he is going to come off the bench. And I think that 3-point shot is going to take yet another leap. I think it's easy to forget how new to shooting threes consistently Isaiah Stewart was. And he was fantastic last season. He got up a lot more than he ever had in his whole career and shot at a damn good percentage. And like you said, the numbers weren't he didn't gain that much respect at times from opponents, but I think over time that's going to completely change. And he's the hardest worker I really know on this team. And I think that 3-point shot is going to just continue to develop. Um, he's the kind of guy that I really just hope and I could see make all defensive teams. I know we have a few guys on this roster that have that, but I honestly might have him over Rasar Thompson in terms of making a defensive team. Credit to him being a big, I think, as well. Um, I'm expecting just a really fundamental season. I think that 4 year, 64 million deal for him is even if he's coming off the bench, is such a great deal for Isaiah Stewart. We throw that Al Horford comp out all the time. And I think he's getting there. I think he's going to be a guy, like I said, that's going to close all these games. He's going to guard the other team's best player. That's bigger most of the time, whether that's a 3 or a 4 or a 5, quite frankly. Kind of want to give you the opportunity to talk about Isaiah Stewart before I have my closing remarks on it.
You guys touched pretty big. If you're saying that he's going to be in the closing lineup, does that mean that you're expecting us to close with a too big lineup, Valley?
I think that depends on the team we're playing against. And I think that's the flexibility that we have with Isaiah Stewart. And I think that's why he's so valuable. If you want to match up and go bigger, like say you're playing the Cavaliers, where they're running that big 4-5 combo, or even if it is a smaller team, Isaiah Stewart can hang his ground. I would say 3 through 5. And I don't think there's an issue, but I just think it gives you that flexibility to be able to run double big to close out the game.
Yeah, all right. I mean, my thing with Stu, it was the same thing I've kind of been asking for. I've seen like slight improvements in it, but it's like hit the threes that aren't easy, right? Hit the three when you don't have 8 feet of space in the corner. Hit the three when your guy is closing out on you and you have half a second. You know, hit the three that you might have to put a dribble into the ground and or like let the guy fly by or something like be able to hit threes in variable situations, I think would be the difference between Stu being that would be the difference. I don't know what the difference between, but that would be what would allow those two big lineups to actually work. Like Stu has to become a credible threat, not only to hit threes, but hit threes in tougher situations, and that would make him, I think, what would establish him as like a legitimate 3-point threat.
Yeah, I thoroughly agree. And I think that goes back to him like not having that much experience being an out and out power forward and shooting those threes. But even if he's at, say he's at the same level or slightly better than last season, you can have a closing lineup of Cade, Beasley, Fontecchio, and then Stu Duren and have that spacing, in my opinion. Is there anything else you guys want to add on Isaiah Stewart here?
Yeah, real quick, defensively, the two bigs is not the problem because Stu can switch and Stu is a beast on defense. And offensively, he is a better shooter, dare I say, than like Tobias Harris.
Nope.
Like just straight up in the corner, I want Tobias.
He's not a better shooter than Tobias Harris.
I mean, I want Stu. But either way, he can hang. Like Stu is a good shooter. I think it's just he can't like create if the person closes out. He can't create, and he has like a few flashes. I remember the one against Embiid where he kind of did like a little 1-2 dribble and then drove and slammed it. Like Stu just can't really do much on the ball, which is why he can't play the 4 really. But if he just like transforms, then yes, that's who he can be. But I'm very high. What do you guys think will be his 3-point percentage this year, and on how many attempts? I'm gonna come right out, say like 5 attempts a game, 41% from 3.
Oh my god, I would say like 38. Also 5 attempts a game.
39, but I see more than 5 attempts a game.
I just think bench?
Yeah, he took 3.8 last year at 38%.
Yeah, I still think he's going to get near 30.
Adding volume, I don't think you're going to expect huge percentage increases. 41? You think that Stu's going to be like
shoot that thing, Stu?
I think Stu's lethal from 3. He has such a pretty shot already.
5 a game, that means you do think that he's going to be able to hit tougher 3-pointers.
Yeah, I do. Because with he already has a pretty shot. I love his form. And then we're working with Fred Vincent, I think, will really expand his ability to hit different types of threes. Go back and watch. Me and Valley talked about this the other night. There's this channel on YouTube that posts every bucket of NBA players. Go watch Isaiah Stewart one. He hits some threes that aren't just wide open. Like you actually like. I think you're kind of looking back at it the wrong way. This guy hit some threes that were like.
Oh yeah,
to the
hold on.
side,
You watched
pump
that?
fake.
You watched a highlight mix of all the makes.
Yeah. When you shoot 38%,
Oh
you have a
man,
lot of
I watched
makes.
his highlight tape and he was cooking. I watched the Killian Hayes offseason tape, dude. You know he can hit right hand lays now.
I don't know. I fully agree with Gabe. I'm a very big supporter of Isaiah Stewart. I think what's going to be key to him shooting a high percentage is that he has a really high release point already, and I think Fred Vincent's just going to help him make that more. And I'm seeing 39%. I'm seeing around 5 to 6 attempts per game as well. Massive year for Isaiah Stewart, and I want to do this with every person we're going around. Single stat that we think will jump the most from Isaiah Stewart.
This one's tough because I don't think he's necessarily gonna get a big jump in stats.
3-point makes.
Yeah, I guess so. He made one, like I said, he made 175 last year playing 46 games.
He made 175 3-pointers?
No, he made 67. He attempted 175.
I was gonna say. Yeah, I could see him hitting 100 threes this year.
Yeah, me as well.
So Gabe and Connie, you're both taking total 3-point makes.
Yeah, I don't see any other stat really.
Yeah, especially because I think he's going to move to the bench. He played 31 minutes a game. I think that's going to drop a little bit this year. So, like, counting stats might go down slightly.
I don't know. Call me crazy. I might go points on this one. That if he's shooting the way Gabe thinks he's going to shoot as well, I think I'm a little bit lower, but I think there's a lot of room for just total points. Before I move on, I do want to congratulate Isaiah Stewart on his firstborn, Rafa Stewart. Congratulations to him and his partner. Looks like he's having a great summer as well out in Jamaica and in New York, Isaiah Stewart. But moving on then, to the biggest name the Pistons acquired this offseason. Tobias Harris is back in Piston red, white, and blue. He spent 3 years as a Piston from 2015 to 2018, where he averaged about 16 points a game, 6 rebounds, and 2 assists. Tobias got paid a lot of money, 2 years, $52 million. And again, I think some people were kind of very questionable about that deal. For me, I loved it because the length of it. It's 2 years. I'm not that happy about paying Tobias Harris that much money, but for 2 years, no issue at all. That's a guy you can even move on, probably most likely after 1 year if you need to. And he was pretty solid in Philadelphia last season. I know he catches a lot of strays, especially for his playoff performance in that game 7 where he put up 0 points. But just speaking about his statistics over that season, he averaged 17 points, 6.5 boards, 3 assists a game on 49% shooting, 35% from deep, 88 from the free throw line. This guy played 157 games for the Pistons, and he always was proud to be here, which was most important. He was on that playoff team in 2016 that gave the Cavaliers a good run for their money. And what I think that what Tobias Harris is going to bring to this team is he might not necessarily raise the ceiling very much, but what I think he will do undoubtedly is raise the floor. I think he's going to make us a more competent basketball team. We always touch how these other guys are going to impact Cade Cunningham. Having an NBA player, a proven NBA player, a veteran like Tobias Harris is going to improve Cade's game. My concern for him is that 3-point shot. He did not shoot it at a high volume, although he did shoot it at a decent percentage. And that's why I said I think Isaiah Stewart might be a better 3-point shooter than him. But Tobias Harris also he brings us some size in that wing position. And I know I call him a wing, but there's a reason we're doing him with the bigs here. Yes, for numbers' sake, but Tobias Harris is also a big wing who can play the 3 or he can play the 4. He'll provide some needed basketball IQ, especially on the defensive end, having been in the league for over a dozen years now, Tobias Harris. I'm really excited about this. Like I said, I think he's going to raise that floor quite a bit and it just about automatically confirms that he's going to make us not the worst team in the NBA. I think just having like that competency is really underrated. You know, we're not going to be slotting in like Tosan Abuman to play minutes, and I think that's really understated here. I can't reiterate enough that the floor has been significantly raised with the acquisition of Tobias Harris, regardless of what you paid him. he's making your team better in so many ways, and it's just so necessary. I anticipate or I hope that he's going to get up more threes and space that floor. There were often times he was a bit timid to shoot, but I understand that to an extent playing next to Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, two All-Stars, and one of those obviously a MVP and superstar. Um, I anticipate a lot of open looks he's going to get, especially if we go with more spacing around him. A lot of kickouts from Cade Cunningham after we see that pick and roll with him and Duren. Um, Statistically, he averaged about, yeah, like I said, 17 a game last year. I'm feeling about a pretty similar number. I think he'll get low teens, and I just think that's so valuable to this organization. Gabe, I'm gonna shift it over to you for some Tobias Harris talk.
Yeah, it's just good to have more wings, like you said. No more Kevin Knox. Instead we get a proven guy like Tobias Harris. The contract is terrible. 2 years at that price is terrible, but for that short time, it's okay because we just need, like you said, some competent players on this team. My only concern with him is he kind of stops Asar from being able to get more minutes. It's just kind of hard now to find minutes for Asar, even though he can't shoot, which again, over that time frame, I think is completely fine. Just to get some decent NBA players on the roster. Other than that, like we used to have him, like he's very steady, he's very consistent, never does anything that jumps off the page. He's just a good NBA player, and that'll be good to have. He's an average guy. He's made a lot of money in his career. I think he likes Detroit. Obviously, he's been here twice for a lot of money, but I'm glad he's on the team. I would not be surprised if, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of hard with the money, but next year if he's moved on that expiring deal. But he for sure will not be back after these 2 years. I can tell you that. And he will start the four. I think that's a given.
I do think he's one of those guys you can pencil in the starting five, and that's only a handful of people. Connie, anything else to add for Tobias Harris?
He comes in probably maybe with improvement, but last year he would have been the second best player on our team. Like you said, he's just consistency. He's just going to be someone that is good at basketball and doesn't suck, and it's going to be out there. It comes around to sort of a principle that is talked about a little bit. Something that I thought we were going to be last year, but we weren't because we did have players that sucked. But it's just the idea of playing guys that don't suck. Like you don't need insanely great players. You just need to play dudes that don't suck. You don't need and we just happen to be playing a lot of guys last year that did suck. A lot of guys that aren't NBA players, and this is just another guy that doesn't suck and should improve the Pistons pretty dramatically over what they were last year. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. To go around quickly, Gabe said yes starting. I said yes starting. Connie starter, guaranteed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just to read one more time where his stats were last season: 17.2, 6.5, 3.1. Are you seeing a potential for any increase in his stats, or do you think where he is with his career right now that it's going to be a decline?
I think we're going to see about that. Maybe a couple more threes than he shot there, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm taking 3-point percentage. Or I think you can take either percentage or attempts per game in this situation. Gabe, largest increase, if any, in his statistics this season?
I think I want to go 3-point percentage. He didn't shoot very well last year. 35%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moving on to our last big man, though, of the season preview, and our last player of the season preview for the 24-25 season, with preseason just a couple weeks around the corner. We got one more guy to talk about, and that's kind of a guy that, quite frankly, I think is a little forgotten about because he was an acquisition this summer from the Philadelphia 76ers. That man is Paul Reed. Connie, take us away. A lot of these fans don't know much about Paul Reed, so educate us. What do you got?
Paul Reed is a super high motor, high intensity, offensive rebounding machine, center, like good athleticism center, a little undersized. He reminds me a little bit actually of Jalen Duren, in that he is like this motor big man that gets a lot of his stuff off rebounds and rolling, but he does actually have something to his game, like a skill set to his game that a lot of people don't appreciate. Um, I mean, we got him on a buyout. He is our third big in the rotation right now. I think Jalen Duren for sure and Isaiah Stewart hold a seniority over him on this team. But he was a guy, last year, 7 points, 6 boards, half of those on the offensive rebounding, off the bench with a block a game. Like that shouldn't be understated. That's good numbers. Like he makes stuff happen. I don't think he'll have a super consistent role on this team, especially since I want to say, has JB Bickerstaff said stuff about not going for the two big lineup?
I
Or
don't think so.
is
I
that
don't think
just something that we're hoping for?
I
He did show a little bit of something. I mean, he shot like 43s last year. He shot him at 37%. I could see some like crossover second unit stuff with B-Ball Paul and Isaiah Stewart as two guys that can sort of space. I mean, Stewart is a better shooter, but sort of space and do other stuff. I look at him like I think he's gonna be a fill-in guy on this team, and he's gonna do that very well. Like you said, Stu played 50 something games. Duren's had some injury problems. Dudes get hurt, right? And if the guy that you can bring in is Paul Reed, that's also not bad. Like he's just another guy that doesn't suck. Pretty good.
Yeah, compare him to James Wiseman, right, last year.
Yes, sir.
I'd much rather have Paul Reed.
Absolutely. And he's like a guy that he is in the NBA because he cares, right? Like it's effort that he's here.
Yeah, he's earned every minute he's gotten to this point, and I'm hoping for more opportunity here. But like you said, I don't think he's going to be a guy that is going to be playing 82 games. I think he'll fill in. I do think Connie, like you said, we'll see some lineups with him and Stu, with him having a little potential to spread that floor. That's something that we'll have to see. To the extent of how much he can space the floor. 43s he took last season. Would have to see that go up a bit for him to be like a legitimate option to play with Isaiah Stewart. But like you said as well, Isaiah Stewart faced a lot of injury issues, always has throughout his career. Although you do always have to take those with a grain of salt because so many of those are end of the season. Let's tank, you know.
Tank
But,
injuries, yeah.
but from what we understand, Isaiah Stewart's missed a lot of basketball due to injury, as has Jalen Duren. And fill-in guy, I think, is kind of the perfect thing for him. That's a great way to describe what his role is going to be on this team. However, with like the limited opportunities he's had and how hard he's worked to get to where he is, I think he's going to make the most of them. But the only slight concern I have is Philadelphia did drop him in order to re-sign Andre Drummond. I don't know if you can read much into that, but like Philly.
That was a money thing too. The Utah Jazz, like he was a restricted free agent. Utah Jazz signed him to something, and it was I forgot exactly what the deal was, but it was like 3 years for like a good amount of money. But it was a sort of that thing. It's like, do you just give him up and lose him, or do you try to maintain the asset? And they maintain the asset, and they now have Andre Drummond at the minimum. So I think that saved them something like $10 million, which they used to like build their team out. So I think that was more of like a purely financial move rather than like they wanted to get off B-Ball Paul because Dre's better.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, to cap off though, I think he's just going to be a real energy guy that's going to fill into the highest level when he does get the opportunities to fill in. We'll make the most of his opportunities. I don't have his numbers in front of me, but I'm going to anticipate a jump in points per game from him. What do
Really?
you
Because he was at 7 last year.
Yeah, I do
These
think so.
guys can't
He's
all
not getting
score a lot of
minutes.
points. They
Yeah,
can't
I
get
know,
in
but it's not
minutes.
like he's going to get 9 points every time because he's not going to play every game. But I think I could see him around 9 a game.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I think that's a stretch. I'm gonna go 3-point makes. I believe in Fred Vincent. I believe in B-Ball Paul as a skilled basketball player. I think he's gonna be taking when he's in there. He's gonna be taking some threes, and I think he's gonna make some.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, I'll go 3-point percentage as well. I just think he's not gonna take a whole lot, but when he does play, I think he's got like it's just the modern NBA bigs. The more threes you take, the more valuable you are. I could see him doing that all summer because like he has everything else right in his role specifically. So if he can come in, knock him down at like 40% on limited attempts, I mean that's a great third string guy right there. Also,
Yeah.
a decent contract to be a trade piece.
Yeah, I do agree. Well, that wraps up our season preview of the bigs, and that wraps up our season preview as a whole for the Detroit Pistons by the individuals. I'm sure next pod we can go into starting lineups, record predictions, and all that, and have some fun with that. All right, welcome back for our last segment of the pod here. You know the game, guys. Guess that Piston, a Buffs on staple. 10 yes or no questions that Gabe and I are gonna have to find out the Piston that Coni has in his mind. So without further ado, I'll get it going with the most common question. Is he white?
Yeah.
There was hesitancy.
Yeah. He's white.
All right,
Like,
Okay.
he's white.
so we can assume he's like, I don't know, maybe he's not straight American, right? He might be like Spanish, like Jose Calderon last time.
Or he's slightly mixed, but yeah, the doors are open.
I guess we'll go. Is he a guard?
No.
Um, was he on the Pistons? Stan Van Gundy and beyond.
Like after?
So like start of Stan Van to present date. Was he in that time frame?
No.
So pre Stan Van. Oh
Was he a
boy.
wing?
No.
All right, so a big that's pre Stan
Like
Van and
the big fella, yeah.
is white. Um, oh boy, I already have a clue. Um, okay. Pre Stan Van. How can we narrow it down some more? Um,
Yeah, it could like. Is it? We started watching when, like 2011.
did we watch this guy play for the Pistons live on the TV?
We did not.
Oh man, we should probably figure out this time frame, Gabe.
It's tough to narrow down.
Maybe like 2000s or something.
There's like there's like two eras of Pistons basketball.
Did he win a chip?
He did.
Oh, I got somebody.
Which chip did he win? Hmm. Which chip did he win? Big man on either. I'm gonna assume 04, honestly. Um, but I suppose there's that chance we could dip into the bad boys. Um, if you got one, Gabe, go ahead.
Oh yeah. Could he shoot?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, I think I have it. If it is indeed at the right time frame.
he could shoot.
Vayan just asked the 04 question.
Yeah, was he on the 04 team?
He was 8.
On the 04
Well, I
team.
mean, yeah, the bigs. I mean, the bigs.
Yeah, we got. I mean, the two Wallaces.
I'm gonna just ask right away. I gotta guess.
Yeah.
I guess I'll narrow. I
Just
don't
guess.
know how else. Is he Turkish?
Throw your guess, man.
Oh, is it Mehmet Okur?
Yeah,
It's a Mehmet Okur.
He might be the most underrated guy. He has some stats, honestly.
For those who don't know, and I can't say I'm the most educated on him, put us on game of Mehmet Okur real quick, Connie.
Put you on game. Just a big, skilled European center.
Yeah, I have his reference up right now.
18.
Career 13.5 and 7. Best season when he was an all-star for Utah. 17.6, 7.2 boards,
What a monster.
2 assists a game, 39% from deep. So he's a skilled guy.
Early, big.
I see
He
his
was
name on the reference as well. It's pretty awesome. Memo and Money Man.
Money Man. You guarantee Blaha was calling him that.
The Money Man.
He could still be in the
Yeah.
league. He's only 45 now.
Give me a guy in this roster and a potential emerging nickname. Like, who do you think is gonna get a nickname like that?
Who's gonna get a nickname?
And I can argue Cade kind of has one, but I don't want.
Cade have one?
What's that?
Does Cade have one? What's Cade?
I feel like people call him Deuce.
Deuce. Okay, yeah.
That's lame though.
I'm feeling something for Duren. I'm feeling a big Duren nickname.
Yeah, same. Jalen Duren. Duncan Duren, something like that from Special K.
AD. Ivy, you know.
Yeah, I feel like that hasn't been utilized yet. The Ivy last name. Do you guys want to add on to this final episode of our player season previews before we get out of here?
Nope.
Right on. Then October 6th is the next big date for us Pistons fans. That is the preseason opener. Until then, like Gabe and like I will be watching those random highlights from Pistons throughout the season, like an Isaiah Stewart 21-7 versus a random opponent. Until then, go the Buffs on Detroit because the future is bright.